Hey, good morning and welcome to NBC 10 Coffee Break. It's Thursday, March 20th, just after 10 o'clock. We just want to give you a brief of what's happening in our area, look at the weather and top stories. And we want to start with what's happening in Providence starting today and then lasting until Saturday. The big event is the NCAA March Madness tournament that kicks off at the AMP in Providence with 4 games today. And there's a lot of activities also going around them. A lot of bars and restaurants are having events. There's street closures and a lot of fan-centric stuff for people who are going to the games and people who are fans of teams and people who just want to check it out. The schedule first up at 12:40 is a 13-seed High Point against the number 4 seed Purdue Boilermakers. If you want to know where High Point is, that's in North Carolina. So they're looking for an upset over Purdue. The next game is at 3:15. That's McNeese, which is in Louisiana. They face off against the 5 seed Clemson also. So McNeese looking for upset there. Then the primetime game, 7 o'clock, 7:10, that is the number 10 seed Arkansas against Kansas, a matchup there with big-time coaches. John Calipari at Arkansas. Of course, he made his name at UMass. It's his first season at Arkansas, up against Kansas and Bill Self. And then a lot of interest for PC fans and people in this area because Rick Pitino returns, the head coach of St. John's. He's resurrected that program and his own career, really bringing St. John's the Big East title. They're a 2 seed, and they'll face a big underdog Omaha looking for the upset. So a lot of intrigue there. Of course, Rick Pitino made his name at PC in the 1980s, taking the Friars to the Final Four in 1987. We want to get a check-in of what's happening downtown right now with Aaron Coogan, who's covering the events for us there. Aaron, how's it looking there? I know it's a little damp and drizzly this morning, but what's the atmosphere outside the AMP this morning?
Yeah, well, Brian, I promise you, this is going to be the quietest it's going to be here in front of Amica Mutual Pavilion. We still got, as you mentioned, about 3 hours until tip-off for High Point and Purdue. But nonetheless, we've had folks dressed out in their jerseys, all of their school swag. It's just really exciting being here in downtown Providence, really just counting down the moments until the basketball all starts right here. We, again, it's going to be such an economic blast as well as a fun blast here in downtown Providence. They estimate $3.7 million in direct spending over the course of this weekend. Just down the block, feet away from the games, we have beer gardens set up. We have several different restaurants hosting block parties throughout the day, throughout the weekend. And this is all in walking distance from the pavilion, from the stadium. So it's going to be a really great way to see all of these teams, these rivals come together in Providence. Of course, we're going to be here all day covering all of the action. But for now, I'll send it back over to you guys.
Aaron, if you have time for a question, my curiosity with this sometimes is, these teams find out just on Sunday where they're going to end up playing. You said there were people in swag. Have you seen people, whether, Kansas is a big national draw.
Oh, yeah.
St. John's is in New York, so they're not too far away. So what are you seeing in terms of fans there? And as you said, I assume a lot of them would have come in probably yesterday.
Yeah, so far, it's a lot of people from High Point ready for this first game, a lot of purple that we're seeing. And they said, hey, we got here 11 o'clock last night, but we're not going to let up the opportunity to go check out the city before our team plays. We also are anticipating in about an hour a bus 22 hours away coming from Omaha. It's going to hold a bunch of the students from the student section. They all thought they were going to play somewhere closer to home, but when they got the bid for Providence, they were like, you know what, we have to support our team. So we're expecting that bus. 22 hours these folks have been on the road just to see their team play right here in Providence.
Looking for that in your reports throughout the day. There are a lot of energy, and as you said, beer gardens and a lot of activity outside and around the area for people to take advantage of. I actually checked on Ticketmaster this morning because I was thinking maybe I'd see if there's any tickets available on the secondary record. There are tickets available, but I think it was a couple $100 just to get in, which I was surprised. It was, because again, sometimes you see these arenas on TV for these games and there's empty seats because, again, a lot of the teams aren't from there and around. All right, Aaron, we'll let you go and finish reporting on what's happening in Providence. Get ready for the noon show. Meanwhile, I want to bring in Storm Team 10's Jason Doris about what fans who are walking around the area can expect throughout the day. As you said, a lot of outdoor beer gardens and events, people walking around and going to be in the city. Jason, I saw a lot of fog on my way in just a little while ago.
Yeah, that's right, Brian. That's going to continue to be the story for today, unfortunately, is a lot of that low-level moisture, the dampness, and the fogginess for all those people that are actually heading into downtown. So what better way to welcome some of those people from around the country, more or less, into southern New England with some of our classic March weather that we do have for the first day of spring. But the big story will continue to be, like I just mentioned, the fog. We have about a half-mile visibility right now in Smithfield and Providence, a little bit better as you make your way towards the coastline, but really it's not going to get too much better as we go forward. We do have this large cloud deck that is really stuck over southern New England. So even though we might get rid of some of the fog, clouds are going to be here and present in the skies above southern New England the entire time. So as you go forward, if you are heading downtown, again, just expecting some overcast skies for the first game. Maybe you're taking a little bit of a break in between the doubleheader and getting ready for the prime time game, checking out some of those beer gardens. We'll have some increasing fog during that time frame. Temperatures right around 49 degrees. And then around midnight, when that last St. John's game is ending, there could be some showers developing across the area. And that's going to be our next real weather maker here. That rain should be falling mostly during the pre-dawn hours on Friday, kind of wrapping up around 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and maybe a tenth or two. So manageable rainfall, but just a little bit of a nuisance if you do need to head out the door a little bit early. On the backside of that storm system, there's only one day really to look forward to on the 10-day forecast. That's going to be Saturday when we have those temperatures back in the upper 50s. But taking a look at this is our March spring-like weather. Temperatures back in the 40s, a little bit unsettled with a couple chances for rain mixed in there too. So we're going to make the most of this weather pattern, and we'll enjoy our March Madness, Brian, even though this weather might be a little bit more unsettled. So good thing basketball's played inside.
Yeah, a little bit dreary, and I'm sure for the fans who are walking around and may have a beverage or two, maybe a little of that won't.
Yeah, they might not notice the fog and the dampness as much. So,
yeah,
good for them.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it here on Coffee Break this morning. All right, moving on. We want to check in on some of our top stories that we're checking in on today. And one of them, of course, is the Karen Read trial. We've been keeping an eye on that. There's another hearing today as her lawyers are trying to push back the start of the trial. It's supposed to start April 1st. They're in Norfolk County. Karen Read, a Mansfield woman, of course, on trial for the murder of her boyfriend, a Boston police officer, John O'Keefe, now a few years ago. National sensational trial. Her lawyers want to push back the case as they await for their federal appeal on wanting to drop some of the charges, including the second-degree murder charge. Of course, there was a mistrial that ended last year because the jury couldn't reach a decision, although Karen Read's side says that they polled the jurors informally and the jurors would have acquitted her on the murder charge, and that's why they want that out. And of course, in that, connected to that case, the high-profile Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor was fired by state police yesterday. He was pulled from the job after the first trial as the vulgar texts he sent to family, friends, and coworkers on his personal phone about Karen Read while he was investigating the case spilled out during that trial, called her some bad words, made fun of her Crohn's disease and whatnot. The state police had a hearing process for his job and then announced yesterday that they were going to fire Michael Proctor. So that's, and again, there's a documentary going on right now about the Karen Read case. So a lot of developments. Gabrielle Caracciolo is keeping an eye on that for us today on the Karen Read trial. That's all happening at the Dedham Courthouse. Also up today, the man believed to be the last one to see that missing college student from the University of Pittsburgh is now going to be allowed to go back to the United States from the Dominican Republic. Police questioned 22-year-old Joshua Rye, but he's not a suspect in Sadishka Kanaski's disappearance, but again, was the last one with her when they were swimming in the ocean. According to reports, he had said that they got hit by a big wave, that they almost drowned, and then he turned around and then she wasn't there and he thought she left. Again, police in the Dominican have said he's not a suspect or anything like that. And then her family has said that they believe she drowned and want authorities there in the Dominican Republic to pronounce that she's deceased again, but he is now allowed to come back to the United States. All right. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump about to sign another executive order today to dismantle the U.S. Education Department. Of course, that's been a stated goal. The White House confirms the order advises Secretary Linda McMahon to, quote, take steps to facilitate the closure. They've already been going through layoffs there. Trump administration has basically said that Linda McMahon was brought in to eliminate the Department of Education. A lot of educators around the country are wondering what exactly that means in terms of the billions of dollars of funding that goes to state and local departments. So that seems to be a question, is what then happens with the funding. It also directs this executive order that Trump is going to sign the department to continue to deliver services and programs, and completely eliminating the department would require congressional approval since it was formed by Congress. All right, today at Rhode Island State House, the Rhode Island Alzheimer's Association will raise awareness for their Advocacy Day. Energy customers will call for lower utility bills, and a House committee discusses several measures. And Senate President Dominic Ruggiero is expected to return to the Senate floor today following pneumonia and rehab. He was in the hospital for 4 or 5 days, then in a rehab unit connected to Fatima Hospital for a couple of weeks after that. And he's missed several weeks of the Senate session. They do usually are only meeting once a week right now, although it's been twice this week. So the expectation is that he would be back at the Senate today. Of course, last year he announced that he was battling cancer as well and dealt with some other health setbacks. He won re-election and then survived the challenge to his position because some of his colleagues were seeking to replace him, mostly on the health grounds. All right, meanwhile, long awaited, the MBTA is testing trains for the South Coast Rail before service begins this Monday. It's the first time in more than 60 years that people in Taunton, Fall River, and New Bedford will be able to take the train, and an easy way to get direct to Boston. Governor Maura Healey is going to be at events throughout the day on Monday, riding the train. The Lieutenant Governor Driscoll as well. They'll be taking different branches of the train and then have events. The commuter rail is also offering free rides through the end of March, so another week or so after they start that rail service. So we've been waiting for this for decades, it's fair to say, and South Coast Rail is supposed to open on Monday. So that's a look at our top stories, what's happening in the area and the weather. And of course, the NCAA tournament in Providence at the Amica Mutual Pavilion. A lot of people will be interested in that. So if you're out there and about today, enjoy, but also know that there's going to be some street closures as well. Thanks for joining us on Coffee Break. We'll have news and weather updates always on turn10.com. We'll be back on TV for NBC 10 News at noon. Thanks for joining us.